It's Bradley Stalder, Ryan Reynolds, bringing you the fantasy advice to win your league this year. Ryan, I'm so excited to dive into this with you. We're into the few games left in the regular season for the fantasy season before we get into the fantasy playoffs. These are the critical weeks. The trade deadline exists in some of your leagues. Like, now is the time to make the moves, pick up those coveted waiver wire darlings, the stashes, the deep sleepers that Theo Greminger always drops. Like, Theo does a great job bringing content here to Player Profiler, but Ryan and I are going to dive into not only the players that you need to win your league and some of the matchups and like overall macro strategies that are going to help you, but also we're gonna take a little bit of time, sprinkle in some goodness for you for tomorrow's games, because week 13 is upon us and we have 3 games for Thanksgiving, which is great. I think it's a great tradition having those highlighted games on Thanksgiving. Ryan, are you excited for the Thanksgiving slate? I'm very excited.
Yeah, I mean, get a nice plate of food, watch some football, maybe, have some action in on the games. It's a great day. It's one of my favorite days of the year, quite frankly.
My favorite memory of the Thanksgiving football was not the football. Many years ago, probably a decade ago, God rest her soul, Aretha Franklin sang the Star Spangled Banner, the national anthem. She sang the national anthem to open for the Detroit Lions. If you have the opportunity to rewatch that, search Aretha Franklin Detroit Lions Thanksgiving, and it is a life-changing video, probably 3.5 to 4 minutes long. She does an amazing job, and it will change your life. So check it out. That is my favorite memory of the Thanksgiving football, is Aretha Franklin singing. Nevertheless, let's get into the good fantasy advice that all the people are tuning in for here. And we'll begin with some macro strategies, especially when it comes to the running back position. As we've seen this year, it's been the wide receiver position, not the running back position, that's been decimated by injuries. Sure, we've seen some sprinkled in here and there to the running backs, but we experienced some running back injuries this past week, and now we have to not only react to those, but also prepare ourselves just in case another running back falls off. Because if the running backs have stayed healthy so far this year, then we're looking at, well, there's a lot of tread on the tires. They have got wear and tear, and they're nursing injuries. I mean, not a running back, but Fred Warner said he's been playing with a fractured ankle since week 5, week 4. These players have been playing through things for a long time. It's only a matter of time before the players who touch the ball the most and get hit the hardest are going to get sent to the sidelines due to injuries. So, Ryan, we'll get into some specifics, but how are you approaching the running back position in these final 3 weeks of the regular season? 2 weeks, the regular season, depends on your league, of course, but these few weeks and then going into the 3 playoff weeks, 15, 16, 17.
Well, first, I just have to comment quickly on Fred Warner, because I actually worked with Fred Warner in the past, and he's a very articulate, smart guy. And the fact that this maniac's playing 2 months with a broken ankle is just unbelievable. It's one of the reasons I love football. These guys are warriors.
He's a dog.
And, he's got that dog in him for sure. I think, like you said before, it depends on your roster build. But for instance, I have a 0 running back team that's, I'm leading the league in points. I have the best record, but at running back, I'm a little dicey. Tony Pollard's actually my top running back. So I've insured Tony Pollard with Tajay Spears, because if Pollard goes down now, I'm completely shot. Where before I was just taking as many lottery tickets as possible. So I'm shortening my roster with the lottery tickets. I have 2 defenses now because I'm actually going to play those. So I think that's the top thing for me is I'm going to less lottery ticket stashes for me. I'm still going to have 1 or 2. Like, I'm going to keep Blake Corum, for instance. So I'm going to carry him to the end. But
yes,
some of the other guys, and I picked up Braylon Allen in all my leagues too. But for the most part, I'm going to tighten my roster. I'm going to take some guys that I don't want to face. Like, I'm going to hold Bo Nix as a second quarterback, for instance, because I don't want him against the Bengals in week 17.
Right.
So that's how I'm trying to, I'm instead of having like 5, 6 lottery tickets on my bench, I have like 2 now.
And we kind of know who the backups are at this point. We know who the RB2 for each of the teams are. The Braylon Allens of the world, the Tyler Algiers of the world. Like, those are the targets, the Blake Corums, the Trey Bensons. Those are the players we want to shorten our list, not take the speculative ads, but those are the players that we want to be targeting, like, generally speaking. One of the developments today, though, I'm especially sensitive to the Green Bay Packers situation. One of the beat writers put out Josh Jacobs, of course, handling the significant workload, but they've been putting in Chris Brooks a little bit more than Emmanuel Wilson over the last 4 weeks. Chris Brooks has earned at least 20% of snaps over the last 4 weeks. In fact, a season high 35% last week. And we haven't seen 25% of snaps or more for Emmanuel Wilson since week 5. So really, we've started to see a shift there with the Packers trusting Chris Brooks just a little bit more. So while it's still murky in the Green Bay Packers backfield, I think it's trending more toward Brooks being the guy if it's Jacobs who goes down.
Yeah, like that, high quality offense. It's kind of, I don't want to call them quite run reliant, but I think Josh Jacobs had 26 carries last week, so they're leaning into the run. Good offensive line. It's cold in Green Bay, so airing it out's a little tougher when it's 10 degrees with a -5 wind chill. So I love that information. I hadn't noticed that his usage is trending up. So I'm gonna take an eye on some of my deeper leagues for Chris Brooks myself.
Yeah, so throwing that out there, hopefully you guys will also take that as some action. We're going to discuss some specific running back injuries. The first one is J.K. Dobbins. Now, J.K. Dobbins suffered a knee injury in the game week 12. Now we're entering week 13. He is ruled out already for week 13. Week 14 and beyond is still a major question. We saw Gus Edwards get the short yard touchdown in this game, but there's also Hassan Haskins. There's Kimani Vidal, who was a healthy scratch. If I'm a betting man, like, I still think it goes to Gus Edwards, but I don't trust that it fully will go to Gus. That's how I'm approaching it. It's kind of like, will we see 12 carries for Gus? Yeah. Like, I don't think he gets full J.K. Dobbins workload, but I also don't think he's gets the target share and receptions that we were seeing from J.K. Dobbins. That may go to Vidal, that may go to Haskins, that may go somewhere else. Maybe it goes to the tight ends, although the tight ends are really banged up. Will Dissly didn't practice today because of a groin injury. And Hayden Hurst is dealing with injuries. Maybe it's Stone Smart. There's a deep cut for you if you really want some deep cut LA Chargers tight ends. They're really struggling to have more playmakers. So that's kind of my read on the LA Chargers backfield. Do you have a similar read or a different take there, Ryan?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. Like you said, Gus Edwards is essentially like the Damian Harris type player where 12 to 14 carries. If he has 60 yards rushing, a touchdown, and 1 reception, that's like a 400-foot home run out of Gus Edwards. I'm leaning into Vidal a little bit, hoping that he gets more of a passing game role, because he's impressed a little bit in his limited uses this year. I think Hassan Haskins might be a more direct handcuff to Edwards, just based on skill set. So I've grabbed Vidal in a few spots, and Gus Edwards for my zero running back team, for instance. I am interested in having him as just a guy that can get you 6 to 15 points, and that can be enough in some situations.
I wouldn't call J.K. Dobbins like a league winner, but he's been a league carrier for you. He's been a consistent flex play pretty much every week, getting you touchdowns, 60 plus rushing yards, getting you a couple receptions, and you drafted him late. Like, you made good money off of J.K. Dobbins if you were investing in the Chargers backfield, which was something that I was doing a lot of. You knew Harbaugh was going to run the ball. You knew that there was going to be a high percentage of the plays called as runs. And if we were making bets on who was the best running back in that backfield, it was J.K. Dobbins. And I know there was a lot of speculation that Vidal might take the next step, and Gus Edwards was always going to be a trusted guy, but Dobbins had the most eyebrow-raising intrigue, upside, talent. He was a second-round pick back at Ohio State. Like, he was a top 3 selection in your Dynasty 1 quarterback drafts. Like, that's how you were seeing him. So I understand the injury issues, but Dobbins has really paid off this year, Ryan.
Oh yeah, and we're talking about risk management here, where if you're taking a guy in the 12th to 15th round and his upside is leads the Chargers backfield and carries and opportunities, I'm willing to be wrong on that whenever, which is why I'm still interested in this backfield too. To be perfectly frank with you.
Well, another injury that we're monitoring right now, and that's Breece Hall, the New York Jets running back, did not practice, and this is coming out of the bye week. A very interesting issue that Breece Hall practiced so hard over the bye that he's now injured. Maybe. Sorry, Jets fans. It's just how your season's going.
Oh.
Literally, who was it? My mother-in-law asked me today. She's like, so because she knows I'm a Packers fan, I have an affection for Aaron Rodgers despite all of his idiosyncrasies because I've been following his career my whole life. She's like, so how's that quarterback doing for the Jets? How are they doing this year? And I said, well, they're like imploding from the inside out. And she was like, so like what happened? And she has no like all she does is follow the Detroit Lions football. She said, so what happened? And I said, well, they fired the head coach, they fired the GM. Aaron Rodgers is supposedly hurt. The first time he's not on the injury report since like week 4 or whatever it is. And they're losing. They're like 3-8, and it's not good. And she's like, oh, okay. like her heart was like, oh, they weren't doing so good. And now the Jets are dealing with the injury to their star running back, a key, not only rusher for the Jets, but also a receiving option. It's clear that Braylon Allen has held firm to this running back 2 role. And it's also clear that the Jets over the next 5 weeks have one of the best rushing schedules in matchup wise. Josh Larkey tweeted about this. I mentioned, he was like, Breece Hall is a buy, or he mentioned positive things about Breece Hall. I don't know if he said he was exactly a buy, but Josh, put out there that all of these positive things about the Jets running backs. And I said, well, maybe it's Braylon Allen season because they know what they have in Breece Hall. So Braylon Allen, a player that had he landed on the Dallas Cowboys, had he landed anywhere else, maybe tearing it up. But, if Breece Hall misses, you were right to mention earlier in the podcast, Ryan, Braylon Allen is a must roster player. And even if it wasn't a Breece Hall injury, he is a must roster. And now we've got the injury that we could be looking at starting Braylon Allen in week 13.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not only is Braylon Allen in a position to potentially get like a big time usage, he's also good. Like I don't want to quite call him a difference maker, but that's at least on my radar at this point. And like you said, the Jets have an excellent schedule down the stretch. They have struggled, and that both of their offensive tackles are on the injury report. Tyron Smith's doubtful, Morgan Moses is questionable. And what intrigues me about that is that could mean checkdowns to running backs, more often. So if Hall's out, like I think Braylon Allen is basically like a rock solid RB2 for the overwhelming majority of fantasy teams.
And for those who drafted a lot of Braylon Allen, like myself in the best ball streets, like this is where it's going to start hitting. These are the key moments where you're at a 5th place team and now you have a chance to get in that top 2 because you have players who fill the flex, who were previously zeros. And so these are major movers for you. Braylon Allen, even without the injury, major pickup. I know there's been some speculation on X and other places that the Jets might just shut down Breece Hall. I don't get that read immediately. Worth monitoring, but for now, Braylon Allen, a must pick up. We don't know how the Jets organization is going to approach Breece Hall moving forward, because if the GM is out and he's the one who drafted, if Douglas drafted him, we may be looking at a change in regime. So change in running back.
Yeah, I mean, long term, if out of all the people they have to pay, I think he's probably the odd man out. So I love that take. I'm completely aligned with that.
Yeah, so maybe this is the time to buy low in Dynasty on Braylon Allen too. Yeah, there we go. There's your actionable advice. We also have an Austin Eckler injury that we're monitoring. Eckler didn't practice today. Brian Robinson did practice, but he's questionable. Probably 50-50 is how I'm reading it. And Jeremy McNichols, obviously next man up. Chris Rodriguez is behind him on the depth chart. I liked Rodriguez coming out of Kentucky as a nice yards after contact type of player. But Jeremy McNichols has produced for fantasy this year in some capacity. So if you're looking for a desperation flex, and Eckler is not there, Brian Robinson is not at full capacity or is zero because he's out, Jeremy McNichols worth flexing here in week 13 and beyond. Ryan, is that how you're reading the Washington situation?
Yeah, I feel terrible about this take because, for years, Jerry McNichols is like, this is a guy where I don't understand why he's, seeing time. But when he's seen the field this year, he's actually produced. And I think if Eckler missed like 3 weeks, I literally think McNichols literally walks right into his role. I think if they're both out, I think if Robinson and Eckler are out, I think Rodriguez eats into Robinson's workload. McNichols sees all of Eckler's and maybe some of Robinson's original workload. But, if McNichols is free in your league and you're a little dicey at running back, I'm grabbing Braylon Allen first because I think he has, we win the whole thing upside with him. And then I think McNichols is maybe next in a lot of scenarios.
Yeah, that's interesting because McNichols has bounced around. He was previously on Tennessee. He was previously on Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Jacksonville, now Washington. He's been around the league since 2017. Yeah. And now he's set a career high in rushing yards. Look at Jeremy McNichols at age 28. These post apex running backs are starring for us. McNichols has 2 top 24 finishes on the season. Week 4, he was running back 8. He went 8 for 68 and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, 90th percentile outcome. We're talking top 10 running back. There we go. There we go. You love to see it. You love to see it. So Jeremy McNichols, deep cut. Tyrone Tracy also dealing with injury. Is this you're the Giants guy, Ryan? You're close to this team. Although, you've sworn them off. They've hurt you deeply. But you're the one who has the greatest pulse. How are you reading this Giants running back situation? Tracy has dealt with the fumbles over the last little bit too. Do you think they move back to Singletary a little bit more now that the rookie has shown some chinks in his armor?
I mean, the thing here is he's definitely like a steal as a 5th round pick. I like him as a player, etc. But like you said, he's had 3 fumbles in the last 2 games. And now all of a sudden the Giants, Brian Dable is genuinely coaching for his job where, if this guy fumbles in their own end and they score and Dallas wins this game by distance, Brian Dable might be unemployed next week. So I think he's still probably going to get the first shot, but I do think the hook's now quick. And if you're in desperate need at running back, I know I've dropped Devin Singletary. I'm considering picking him up again ahead of tomorrow.
You heard it here. Pick up Devin Singletary. Well, before we get into some playoff schedule strategy and some defense strategy, we have a word from the Podfather about Fast Draft. So check it out.
Oh, incredible news about Fast Draft. Fast Draft DFS is live. It's called the Flex 6 Frenzy. You just draft 6 guys, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends for the Sunday slate. You like Jahmyr Gibbs? You like Jackson Smith and Jigba? You like Tyrone Tracy? Draft him, draft him, draft him. And the beauty is you can just order 5 teams, submit your rankings, and Fast Draft will email you the results. We awarded $1,000 in prizes our first week, and we're just going up from there. Soon there's going to be a select 6. No drafting at all. You just pick any 6 guys. Our DFS mantra, just say no to salaries on Fast Draft. Don't forget there's free tools on Fast Draft too. You want to get ready for startup season? We've created the best Dynasty mock draft experience there is. And if you want to play in these DFS contests, and our best ball contest for 2025 are coming very soon too, just use promo code PODFATHER when you deposit and you get a free draft. It's that easy. And you're like, oh, I already have Fast Draft. Great. Refer a friend. Have them put your username in as the promo code, and then you and your friend will both get an instant deposit match up to $25. We got DFS. We got Dynasty Mocks. We got Best Ball. It's all there for you on fastdraft.app. Check it out. And the promo code is PODFATHER.
That's right. Check out Fast Draft. Lots of fun on the Fast Draft app. Starting in December, I'll be doing some content for Fast Draft as well. So it's exciting. We're going to break down real quick the winners, maybe some strategies, some players to target for the next week. It's going to be a lot of fun for Fast Draft Fantasy. Ryan, one of the keys in many home leagues is defenses, like playoff defenses. And, part of me wants to just be lazy and say, you know what, whoever on the waiver wire, I'm just going to continue to stream. Like, that's the lazy man's approach. And, every week I'm just going to see who's there and like, we'll go for it, because I don't think trading, for a defense is the right move in many scenarios. Like, it's very volatile. It's very volatile. But there are some trends that we need to keep in mind when you're targeting, weekly defenses. A couple things that come to mind is I like teams that are favored significantly, usually like 7 or more, teams that are at home, and the game total is low, like low game total, high spread, at home. Like, those are the types of teams that I want to be targeting, like in a general sense, as much as possible. And right now, you look at like who, obviously, like the Chiefs may or may not be available to you. That's a big one with the Raiders. The Lions may not be available to you, but maybe they are. Like, it just depends on your league. There's a lot of, in your home league, especially for defense, special teams, there are like fans of particular teams, and that's the team that they have defense special teams. Like, if there's ever a fan-based pick, it's either quarterback or it is the defense special teams. So those are the two for this week that are very much on my mind. You could go with Buffalo as well at home, and maybe Denver. Like, those are some to think about. But is there a different strategy that you have, Ryan, for how you're approaching rest of season defense special teams?
No, I love what you said about home leagues where people pick their favorite team, because that's true. And I think one of the factors here is you have to know your league and you want to exploit them when you can. So if they're a little laissez-faire about what defenses they take, you can, like Bradley said, you can just pick like Philly or someone with a strong defense and a good schedule. Just play them every week. If you're in a competitive league, like most of my leagues are pretty competitive with, some pretty decent money up top if you take it down. So I try to plan ahead as often as possible, where like, I just put together Buffalo and Green Bay. The Bills play the Patriots and the Jets, and down the stretch run, the Packers have a few good matchups. Tampa Bay is not really a great defense, but Tampa Bay has a number of good matchups down the stretch as well. So that's basically how I view it. I try to prepare, if my team was 8-2, I'm already thinking about, okay, what defenses am I playing week 15 through 17? And in my case, in that one, maybe even just weeks 16 and 17.
Yeah, I love the thinking ahead, especially in the playoffs. And, it depends on how large your bench is. Stashing 2 defenses is not outrageous. That's a strategy. Rather stash 2 defenses than maybe 2 kickers. That's the difference maker. I think they're more matchup dependent. So that's how I'd approach it. Before we get into weeks 15, 16, 17, there's a couple players that we need to discuss, Ryan. One is CJ Stroud. Stroud has struggled this year, to not put it lightly. Perhaps one of the worst best ball picks that you could have made at quarterback. Just disastrous, because he was a round 4 or 5 pick, somewhere around there, depends on where you were drafting, but he has not produced for fantasy this year in the way that we have anticipated. And Houston overall has underperformed. There was a lot of like chips in for Houston, 14 touchdowns, 9 interceptions for Stroud this year. His quarterback 15 in total fantasy points, no rushing touchdowns this year. So a player that has lost Stephon Diggs as well. Dalton Schultz has been banged up here and there as well. Nico Collins has missed some time. Tank Dell was coming back from injury. The only bright spot in this Houston Texans offense has been Joe Mixon consistently, and even he had a down week 12. So how are you approaching CJ Stroud given what we saw his rookie year, and then comparing that to, well, he had a stretch week 7 through 9 where he was quarterback 29, 26, and 24, and then week 11, 25. Yeah, it's been pretty bad for CJ Stroud as of late.
Yeah, he was better last year. The main reason why I'm interested in talking about him now is his body language on the sideline against the Titans. It's like, he looked like he was playing in the 85 Bears from like a personality standpoint. So that was a little concerning. They have a bye after this week in week 14 where maybe that's good. And the reason why this matters is week 15's at home against Miami, week 16's at Kansas City, and week 17's at Baltimore, who's been shredded through the air all year. So I think if you have him, you kind of have to play him in most scenarios, and at least week 15 and 17. But the floor here is just, terrifying. So you're probably already here. You're probably not just plugging him in and playing him every week, but I definitely want to get like Bo Nix, even Sam Darnold, just as a contingency plan. Caleb Williams, even a contingency plan through the fantasy playoffs. So definitely do that if you have Stroud. He's not a sure thing anymore for sure.
Yeah, give me Caleb Williams easily over CJ Stroud rest of season. Williams, since the offensive coordinator has been fired, 285 passing yards per game, and 7.5 rushing rush attempts, over 50 rushing yards per game. Like, that's what we want. That's what we were hoping for Caleb Williams. He was the quarterback 4 last week against Minnesota, and now he gets a shootout at Detroit in the Dome. Like, I know Detroit's defense has had its ups and downs, but the secondary is really banged up, and Detroit allows the second most fantasy points to wide receivers. Yeah, like it's hard to pick which wide receiver I want to fire up, Ryan. Roma Dunze, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. Maybe the answer is all of the above. I think this is going to be a fun game, and the line is moved from -10 to only -9.5. But
still, that's
but
past
still,
the key number. That's good. Yeah.
So it's moved from double digits to single digits.
Yeah, I'd probably have that at 7. So I'm interested in that, but we can get into that a little bit more soon.
Fair enough.
We can get into that.
Cedric Tillman is the other volatile player that we've identified, and he was really hot when Jameis started hot, and now he's cooled off. Now, granted, he left the game in week 12 with an injury. He had to go through concussion protocol, I believe it was, but he had a down week in week 11, week 10, and 9, much better. But now Cleveland's one of those teams where Jameis Winston is trying to find a way to win. I was telling my father, he's been following the Browns since he was a little boy. He grew up in the Cleveland area, and he was like, the coach is fired. He's telling me the coach is fired. Stefanski's fired. I'm like, no, Dad. Like, Winston has won more games than Deshaun Watson. Like, Winston has 2 wins on the season. He's 2-2. Like, there we go. So with the Browns' schedule rest of season, we're looking at the Denver Broncos, which is a tough secondary. Pittsburgh, tough secondary. Kansas City, tough secondary. Cincinnati can be had. Cincinnati can very much be had. And Miami can be had as well. But both of those games are in Ohio, Ryan. So, but we saw Jameis Winston give us some fantasy goodness in week 12 in the Snow Globe Bowl. So, look, the tough defenses plus possibly bad weather in 16 and 17, you got to be a little bit lower than consensus on Cedric Tillman. That's at least how I'm approaching it.
Yeah, first I had to play Cedric Tillman the last 2 weeks, so now that I no longer have to, he'll be fine going forward. I'm sure that's how that will work. But right. I'm with you. Every year, virtually, there's like a 35-mile-an-hour consistent win game in Cleveland. That's probably going to happen against Miami when you need them. But like you said, the Bengals matchup, the Dolphins matchup, as long as they're not extreme wind, I think he's a flex option. I don't think he's safe. I think Jerry Jeudy's the top option in the passing game. I think that's, makes sense. I think Njoku's second. I think Elijah Moore is a more talented player than Cedric Tillman, but Moore's skill set's closer to Judy's than Tillman. So I'd say Tillman's the third option. I don't exactly think they need to draw anything up for him, so to speak. But in a lot of cases, the ball goes where the coverage dictates. And the Bengals and Dolphins matchups in particular, I think he's still a very good flex spot. And like you said, Denver, Pittsburgh in particular, I'm not, if you have other options, I'm going to avoid them if I can.
Yeah, we're playing the avoid game. All right, we're gonna quick hitters. Weeks 15. The Chargers Bucks game has turned into a nice little target matchup. I'm interested in that game. If we're picking some ancillary players to like target for week 15. I'm also interested in the Bears' new offense versus the Vikings and the Bills and Lions getting into a shootout there. So are there any games, slates from the week 15 matchups that you're interested in?
The Texans have been a premium defense this whole year, and the Dolphins have a below average offensive line. So how everything goes in that game is very interesting to me. Has shootout potential. The Texans could have 7-8 sacks in that game. Devin Achane could have 15 catches. There's a lot going on that one. I think that one's very interesting. I think the Ravens defense, because the Ravens defense has probably been dropped in a lot of leagues. Ravens at Giants, that's probably going to be bad. The Ravens are probably going to win with distance. You're going to have Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito or some new guy off the street. That's potentially bad. And another one I like, Denver's probably not available for you anymore, but blitz heavy defense against Anthony Richardson, who's a super volatile passer. That there's a ton of upside for turnovers in that matchup.
Yes. Week 16. I wouldn't have expected this maybe 5 weeks ago, but the Cardinals-Panthers matchup is one that I think is going to be a sneaky shootout. Like a very sneaky shootout. We saw Bryce Young take some steps, and Jalen Coker wasn't even available for that one, right? But it was clear Bryce Young was targeting Adam Thielen in that game. Xavier Legette got some targets as well. Just if those guys come down with one or two more plays, they beat the Chiefs, Ryan. They beat the Chiefs. So shout out to the Panthers for turning the corner a little bit over the last few weeks.
Yeah, something I've noticed is Dave Canales has a really good game script on the opening drive every week, pretty much now. And like you said, Bryce Young has hit an area now where I don't think they can move on from him unless like he bottoms out over the next few weeks. Like he was a real NFL quarterback last week against the Chiefs behind two solid games before that. It's that's an interesting one. Let's see here. Packers Saints is kind of interesting too from a number of angles. The Saints have been playing better since they got rid of Dennis Allen. It's a Monday night game, cold game, dome team going to Green Bay at night. I have the Packers defense specifically for that game. Just mentioned Buffalo plays New England in that game. So those are two potential landslide defensive matchups if they're available in your league.
All right. Week 17 is all the best ball rave, right? We've been prepping all off season. Like there were literal podcasts just exclusively on week 17 matchups. Obviously things have shifted a little bit here and there, but a few of them I just want to bring the highlight back to. The Cardinals Rams was a very popular, like Puka Nacua, Marvin Harrison Jr., 1-2 turn type of click. That I think is worth monitoring and bringing back to the spotlight again. Falcons Commanders, I think, is turning into more of a shootout type that could get exciting. I think a lot more exciting than where drafters were taking them in August. And then the Ravens Texans may not live up to the hype. I think that might be a game where we're disappointed now with the defense of the Ravens, the offensive struggles of the Texans, who's going to be available for that. So that's how I'm looking at these particular matchups, as maybe I'm not as high on that particular one either.
Yeah, I like that. San Francisco Lions is still interesting, but who knows what shape the 49ers will be in at this point. Like if they're, they might be mailing it in.
There's been some rumblings, Ryan, of Brock Purdy getting shut down. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a clip of him today in practice where like he was going through throwing motions but not actually throwing. That's not a very good sign. So I could see it. Bengals Broncos is kind of interesting because Joe Burrow's the sort of guy, he can beat any defense, and if you blitz him, like he can catch you and tear you up. And Bo Nix, Got to give the guy credit. Bo Nix has been excellent. Defensively, Chargers at Patriots is real nice. Buffalo versus the Jets is real nice. I think Seahawks Bears is kind of a sneaky, interesting game where I call them variable games, where if that game was 17-13 with ugly weather, no surprise. But if that game was like 33-30, wouldn't really shock me either. I think that is some sneaky upside, like the two you mentioned. And, one that I've been talking about all offseason. I could see Jonathan Taylor running for 200 yards against the Broken Giants in Week 17.
Oh, you love to see it. You love to hear it. Go, Jonathan Taylor, especially because, he kind of, did not play well.
Yeah.
Recently. So we're looking forward.
Every year there's a couple of guys that you draft and they kind of bomb, but they smash in the playoffs. I could see that being Taylor and Harrison.
Love that call. Love that call. Okay. We're going to take a break here in a moment. And afterwards, we're going to talk about some DFS strategy, macro strategy as we approach the Thanksgiving slates. We're going to look specifically at some of the game previews for Lions, Bears, Packers, Dolphins, and of course, Cowboys, Giants. But before we do, we have a word from the Podfather about Player Profiler.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free, and one of our key missions is to make as much statistics and information and deep analysis available on PlayerProfiler.com for free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In package to continue to make all of this possible. If you can't do All In, that's okay. We have a draft kit. Or you can just subscribe to the player rankings. Those now include tight end premium FFPC ranks. Our brand new data analysis package will blow your hair back. And of course, there's our Dynasty Deluxe and our DFS Dominator. Take a moment, check out our premium services to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.
All right, welcome back to Man versus Machine. Bradley Stalder, Ryan Reynolds with you. We're going to break down some macro strategies as you are preparing for the DFS slates tomorrow, Thanksgiving. You'll be eating some turkey, eating some of the delicious cranberry sauce that your mother-in-law has prepared. Yes, it's the pies, it's the gravy, it's all of it. So while you're doing all of that, we did the work for you. We got you some advice. Ryan, before we get into the specifics for the game previews, how do you approach, do you target individual game DFS slates? Do you try to do the whole day? How are you approaching just even choosing the right game to play?
That's a great question, and that was a good business move. Shouting out your mother-in-law's cranberry sauce. That's a long-term move, Bradley. I like it. I tend to be better at showdown or short slates than main slates, because I'm a game flow guy, and when I can figure out how a game flow is more likely to play and it hits, especially if it's an underdog that wins. I've won a few showdown slates over time. For Thanksgiving, though, long time ago, before Showdown existed, there was Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football made a 2-game slate, and I played those all the time. Now, this is kind of the only one that has real prizes in it. So I might 150 max DraftKings this week on the Millie Maker lottery ticket. We'll see. But usually when I do that, it's because I like one game more than the field. For instance, I said I'd have the Bears at +7, and I think they're a little dangerous at +7. So I really, I'm going to have a lot of Caleb Williams lineups, and we'll get into each game, but usually when I play a slate like this is because I like one game to play differently than most people will.
Love to see it. We'll kick it off though with the Lions versus Bears. I live 25 minutes from Detroit. It is hopping. It is the Lions fans are on fire for their team. Literally the memes are going around of Amon-Ra balancing on his head. They have socks, t-shirts, hoodies printed with Amon-Ra. The frenzy is here for the Lions. But today I was asked about it, and I said, give me the Bears plus 10 at that point. Like, the Bears offense is now at least a little more interesting to me. And this is in the dome, but give us your game preview, Ryan. How are you approaching some of the players in this DFS slate?
To start, I've said this so many times over the last 12 months. The Bears and Lions split last year, but out of the 120 minutes they played, the Bears kicked the shit out of them for 118, like dominated them in both phases. I don't think that's the reality this year for two reasons. One, the Bears defense is not as good as it was late last season when they played Detroit. It's a different unit. More specifically, their pass rush and their run defense has been vulnerable. And the other one is the Lions are better defensively than they were last year. Their offense is a complete offense. Jameson Williams gives them a different dynamic with his downfield speed. Like poor Sam Laporta doesn't even get targeted in games because they don't have to. So 3 things I'm looking for here for fantasy. The progression of Caleb Williams with Thomas Brown as his offensive coordinator is huge. Like you said, the rushing upside. Like you also said, I'm good with any of the 3 Bears wide receivers. If you're playing with any kind of volume, I think you got to mix and match them all because any one of them can potentially hit. We just mentioned the run D for the Bears. If Dave Montgomery misses this contest, I might have 100% exposure to Jahmyr Gibbs. In particular, running off the Bears' left side, teams have just gashed them. I could see Gibbs having a monster game. And the other one is Bears have an excellent secondary, but they're down a few starters. They're down Jaquan Brisker, which has been a problem. So figuring out team like Minnesota last week, the Bears were essentially treating Justin Jefferson like a punt gunner, like they were having 2 people on the line, 2 people following, playing on top, underneath them all game. But Jordan Addison had a big one. So figuring out which player that Detroit's gonna target more in this game, I'd lean towards Laporta actually a little bit and Jameson Williams for a little bit as well. But Gibbs is the guy I like on Detroit's side the most.
Yeah, the official listing is Amon-Ra is questionable for this game. David Montgomery also questionable for this game. I haven't heard that they're going to be unavailable. I'm at this point, I would expect them to play, but I'm still, you still have to be very bullish on Jahmyr Gibbs and the workload that they want to give because they don't want to see their running back tandem go down. They'll limit touches for David Montgomery if they think that that's smart. Like this is a team that is in it for the long haul. They know their goal is the Super Bowl. They're not going to, yes, they want to put foot on the gas, but they can put foot on the gas with just Jahmyr Gibbs and hold out Montgomery. So that's, I agree with that. You want a lot of exposure to Jahmyr Gibbs. Jameson Williams is, I think, the option significantly over Laporta. They've learned to live without Laporta this year, which is unfortunate for all of our best ball drafters who were taking Laporta at like the 2-3 turn. Like,
yeah,
like that's just reality. And the poor FFPC drafters who were taking him as a round 1 selection. Yikes. That has not panned out. But great. There's not a lot to say about the 4:00 slate. Good thing that, we'll be filling our stomachs with turkey, maybe some turducken if that's your thing, mashed potatoes. Look, I prefer the canned cranberry sauce, just because that's what I grew up with. But
Same.
it's just jelly.
Yeah.
It's just jelly. It's delicious.
Glorified jelly.
We're filling our stomachs. It's beautiful because we can take a snoozer right through this slate. Tommy DeVito not expected to play in this game. He has a forearm injury still from last week, so it's going to be Drew Lock. The word is not official. He'll travel to Dallas. He'll travel to Dallas is the report. DeVito, but not expected to play. Drew Lock has been boom bust. Like in his career, he will chuck it deep. He's reckless. He's a worse version of Jameis Winston, right? That's I think how to approach it. He's a little bit more reckless and not as polished. Clearly a worse backup than Jameis. But here we are talking Cowboys Giants, and it's the Cooper Rush, it's the Cooper Rush, it's Drew Lock show. Yuck. CD Lamb and like Neighbors this is probably floor games, right? But their floor games are still like 12 to 15 PPR fantasy points, right? Like they're not going to do nothing, but it's not explosive. We don't expect explosive game, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Drew Lock like being a poor man's Jameis Winston. What? It's perfect. It's true too. It's wonderful. He probably is good for Malik Neighbors because he will give him 50-50 balls. So I definitely think his floor is scary, especially because the Giants' offensive line's in shambles. Their right tackle that they moved to left tackle is not going to play in this game, and they have Micah Parsons, so that could be bad. If it weren't for the Giants' dysfunction in their locker room, where like they looked like they quit last week, Baker Mayfield's doing the Tommy DeVito celebration in the end zone, which
Dable's lost the locker room, right?
Yeah. If that wasn't a factor, I actually would lean towards the Giants winning this game. But now that that's on the table, I think if you're going to play a defense in this game, it's probably Dallas or the Giants in a lot of scenarios. Like you said, Lamb, Neighbors, maybe some Wan'Dale Robinson, like trying to get the ball out quick, like his 8 catches for 40 yards. Maybe you sneak him in cheap to get a little unique. And the other one too is a double move or two from Darius Slayton. And like you said, Drew Lock lets it rip deep. I'm only playing Lamb or Schoonmaker on the Cowboys side, but I will have a mix of all 3 Giants receivers to some degree.
There's a subtle way to get in Kevontae Turpin, right? The Dallas DST. That's the way. You're not going to play him for fantasy, but you could put him in as the DST, right? That's why you would play Dallas. That was amazing. Like it was probably the best kick return I've seen in recent memory. Just he picks it up with one hand at the 1 yard line, does the spin move, and just I'm gone. Like
that was Dante Hall, Devin Hester level stuff. He's awesome too, Turpin. Like that's no fluke.
Yeah, he is legit. If he becomes a more polished wide receiver, well, look out. Like Tyreek Hill 2.0 if you can get him to route run.
Yeah, I don't think he can be the receiver Tyreek Hill is, but he's definitely a guy where they've tried a little bit to get him the ball more, but like that's something they really need to make happen because he is electric.
Yeah, got to get the ball in his hands more. That's going to be interesting. All right, Ryan, give me some good news. Give me some good news. I'm the Packers fan, right? Resident Packers fan. Go Pack, go. Give me some good news. Am I going to be happy Thursday night when my Packers host the Miami Dolphins in the snow? It's going to be a snow game, Ryan. That's what they're predicting. Yeah, awesome. It's like awesome. 20 degrees, a little bit of precipitation, not like a snow globe game, but just enough of a little bit like, all right, we're past Thanksgiving. This is Green Bay, end of November.
That's great. This is a sneaky, interesting game. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think in the NFC, you have the Lions and the Eagles, and then Green Bay, I think, are the 3 teams that have the best shot to get to the title game. And Miami's not dead in the wild card race. They've played well under Tua. They've been taking care of business against volatile teams. This is a big step up in class from the Raiders and Patriots, big time. A few things that I'm looking at here. The Dolphins have been shredded by tight ends all year, so Tucker Kraft is someone I'm going to be very overweight on. I'm going to be very overweight on Tucker Kraft. I think if you're playing any short field DFS tournament, you have to play some Christian Watson, even though, like you saw last week, Bradley, Jordan Love laid in a beautiful deep shot, like 60-yard touchdown, and the guy dropped it. The downside always comes there. And, we talked about this a little earlier today. Tyreek Hill's 6,900 on DraftKings. So, like, he's going to be widely owned, and, like, he's kind of, quote-unquote, due for a big one. But the thing that I think here is, if you're going to do anything offensively to Green Bay, you're going to run the ball on them. And then on top of that, one of the reasons Devin A-Chain is getting such a huge, massive passing game volume is because Waddle and every team plays too high on them because Waddle and Hill are dangerous men. So I'm going to have some Hill. I think A-Chain's someone that you have to, at least be even with the field on if you're looking at this game.
Yeah, Hill's been nursing this wrist injury for some time. He's a player that I wrote up in my Flex article that, he's outside the top 50 on sleepers projected half point scoring projections for week 13. And I was like, you know what? He's still a flex play. But I also called him a league loser today as
saw
well.
that. It was a very clever tweet. It was.
Because you have to start Tyreek Hill. You
Yes.
can't not, but he's been benchable for almost every week. Like, that's the frustrating. So he's dealing with a wrist injury. He's been dealing with, Tua's concussions. That's what hurt him in the middle of the season. Beginning of the season, he still had a 100-yard game. Like, his only 100-yard game was after he got arrested. But is there a correlation? I don't know.
That's right. You showed me that.
all I'm saying is that there's some correlation. Causation, maybe not. I don't know. Adrenaline, whatever. But maybe we need some adrenaline from Tyreek Hill in this game, because boy, oh boy, it has not looked electric like it has in previous seasons. That's the concern. However, you're not going to bench Tyreek Hill. That's the problem. No. But, maybe you punish him by putting him in your flex. That'll teach him.
Right. Yeah. He's earned it. He's earned it. One thing I'll say too, I mean, we're getting towards the end of the road with him with his speed, most likely, but when he plays uncommon opponents, he's a guy. He's like Derrick Henry. He's not like anyone else in the league. So I'm always a little overweight on him in DFS when he's playing an NFC team, because it's going to take you a quarter to just adjust to him. So there'll be opportunities there, but like Bradley, the Packers have a good pass defense. So
Jahmyr Alexander is out for this game.
Oh, wow, that's good.
That is very interesting. Jahmyr Alexander and Romeo Doubs out for this game as well. So your call with Christian Watson, very intriguing. People have been calling for a Jaden Reed game, but Reed has been up and down. He has been sinusoidal. There's a math term for you. Sinusoidal this year. SAT word, people.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Here to be educated. So inconsistent. You want some boom bust. Christian Watson obviously is the player that you could hit on, but nevertheless, any last thoughts on the Miami Packers game before we answer a couple questions here?
No, I think it's going to be close. I could see Miami covering and Green Bay winning. So I could see that actually being the best game on the slate too.
Go Pack, go. Go Pack, go. Big Mo, shout out to you. Thanks for hanging around with us for some time. My team going in the playoffs 2 weeks from now is Josh Allen, Amon-Ra, CD, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Hawkinson, Ridley, 12-man PPR. He's asking, do I have a chance? I think you do. You've got a possible quarterback one, possible wide receiver one, possibility wide receiver two overall, possibility of running back one and running back two, and Hawkinson, possible tight end one. So, yeah, you got a chance, Big Mo. What are you playing in a 3-man league? Like, come on. It's not a 12-man league. Gosh, this is gross.
That was my thought. Like, is that a 6-man league? But yeah, Big Mo, you look good.
Yeah. Okay. Dobo, I was offered JT, George Pickens, and Evan Ingram for Bucky Irving, Najee Harrison, Marvin Harrison Jr. My current tight end is Laporta. Wide receivers are Puka, CD, and he is Achane and Tracy as well. So he would be receiving Pickens, JT, and Ingram, giving up Bucky, Najee, and Marvin Harrison. Pickens is an upgrade over Harrison. JT an upgrade over Najee. JT an upgrade over Bucky Irving. But Ingram for one of those running backs when you have Laporta. I mean, Ingram has had over the last 3 weeks a 28% target share. So with Trevor Lawrence trying to gut it through, sure, I'm okay with that. I don't mind that. What is your take on that, Ryan?
Literally, like, you pulled everything right from my head. I'm completely aligned with Bradley on that.
Okay, beautiful. Half PPR, Njoku or Otten. Oh,
the fact that this is even a discussion is a credit to Baker Mayfield. I'm still going to go Njoku, but that's tough. That's close. I don't think there's really a wrong answer at this point.
Give me Njoku as well. There was a lot of red zone, end zone targets for him. I think he's we have a metric here at Player Profiler called the Dominator rating. I think Njoku is the biggest dominator receiver for the Browns. So that's how I'd approach it, is give me Njoku in half PPR, which rewards those touchdowns and big plays.
Explosives, yeah.
All right. Deuce. Shout out to you. Happy Thanksgiving. Appreciate it. Juan Pena. who from my wide receiver 2 flex, he's got Jefferson, so he wants to know pick 2. Oh my gosh. All right. We got Jennings, we got Downs. Downs probably doesn't play in this game. Xavier Worthy, Westbrook Akine, Mooney, Myers, Taysom Hill, Ramondre. If I'm picking 2 of these, I'm going with Taysom Hill. As wild as that sounds. And Jacoby Myers. Those are the 2 with a close third of Ramondre. I think that's how I'd approach it.
Yeah, I was going to go Jacoby Myers and Stevenson with Mooney as my third if he's healthy. I'm not sure what his status is, but if Bradley thinks there's an angle with Taysom Hill like going nuts again this week, I'd probably lean in that direction myself.
The coaches have come out, Ryan, and they've said they want to involve him very heavily. And with Alvin Kamara, reportedly still dealing with stuff, and the offense, Olave is out, Rashid Shaheed is out, like Bub Means is back, maybe, but who's the guy? Like, it's Taysom Hill. And Ryan, you saw my tweet about Taysom Hill for 2025. Like, they want to know how else they can use him for 2025. He's going to be on the roster. He's going to be 35 years old. He's going to be a tight end 1 again in FFPC. Listen to me. Hear me when I say, if you do not have Taysom Hill listed as a tight end, Underdog Fantasy, listen to me. If you do not have Taysom Hill listed as a tight end, like, these might be deal breakers, in terms of like playing on your site. He is a insert expletive tight end. Like, that's how it is. He's not a quarterback. Stop putting him as a quarterback. Like, he's
definitely not a quarterback.
Like, literally make him a running back. I don't care. He needs to be able to, in best ball, end up in the flex. That I don't give 2 craps about whether he's a tight end. He can't be a quarterback. It needs to be in the flex. So, Ryan, I feel very strongly because I've been screwed 2 years in a row by the positional switches that these sites have made. I've been very vocal about my displeasure with how that position shift has been handled by some of the major best ball companies. So, love you guys, but you're making the wrong decision.
Yeah. I mean, once people have their money and you can't, especially with him, like you said, he's a running back or a tight end. Like, just make a decision.
Gosh, terrible. Who would you rather have on your bench? Who are we benching? We got to bench 2 of these. Okay. I mean, we're benching Downs because he's not going to play. And
isn't it unbelievable that we can't just say Valdez Scantling? Like
I wanted to say MVS.
Isn't that unbelievable that you can't just like we can't just say Westbrook, Ikini, and MVS and move on? Like, we got to actually think about it.
I know
that's
gross.
I think it's Josh Downs and Westbrook, Ikini for me.
Okay. I need to pull the tiebreaker out. I got our weekly projections up. Ryan, here. This is the goods. You listen, you watch. We bring you some premium content. So let's see. We've got Xavier Worthy is wide receiver 62 in this week's projections. Westbrook Akine is 53. Valdez Scantling is 51. So it looks like Worthy right now. Downs is 39, but as I said, I don't think he plays this week. Jennings is 22. I think that's far too high. I need to talk with our projections team about that. So Xavier Worthy is 63. There you go. You're benching him, and you're benching, who did we say?
Downs. Because he's hurt.
Yeah. So there we go. You're welcome. Trone Force, I just traded Tyreek and D-Hop to get Chase Brown. Overpaid, but I needed another running back. I don't think you overpaid. Is that a hot take, Ryan?
Oh, man. Like, it depends on roster construction. It sounds horrible, but no, Chase Brown's, a lock and load guy if you need a running back. The other 2 guys are super volatile. Wow, man, I feel dirty saying that. Oh, man.
I need 2 wide receivers, running back in a flex. Cup, McLaurin, JSN. You're starting JSN, right? They're like, you're not moving away. You're starting Cup, so those 2 are there. You're starting Chase Brown at running back, and then it comes down to McLaurin, Waddle, Monty for me. McLaurin's been out targeted by Noah Brown by 10 over the last few weeks. That's not good. Let's ride the wave with Waddle.
I think I go Monty if he plays, and if he doesn't, I think I go Waddle too.
Yeah. Actually, I agree with that. If Monty plays, you're playing him. All right, y'all. It's been an hour. Thanks so much. We appreciate y'all. Good luck with your Thanksgiving slates. Good luck in week 13. May you crush it. Until next time, everyone, good luck in the fantasy football streets.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.